Hello, extended friends and family. I today want to do a Patreon video for my one Patreon, and she happens to be a mother that lost a child through the adoption experiment. And so today, I'm not going to talk so much about her as much as I'm going to talk about the ghost mother that as a young male infant adoptee, I developed because I lacked a bonding with my adoptive mother. Um, so all I knew about my birth mother was that she was young. So I thought she was 16, but she was actually 17 when she had me. And I knew she had dark hair and blue eyes and that she was artistic. So from that little blurb, I made her obviously, the picture of the beautiful mother that I would want. Um, there was never any sort of sexual attributes that were ever put there. There was a beauty, but it was that physical intimacy I never got to share with my adoptive mother. Um, and that makes me sad that I was unable to bond. And I wonder about reasons for that. Um, her hands were very dry, and she had scoliosis of the spine, so she had a hump, and made her look a lot older than she actually was. And I didn't get to have soft hands on me, and that makes me sad for her and for me. And anyways, my when I think of being held when I was a little kid, I was probably about 2.5 or 3, and it was one of the nurses when I was in the hospital for respiratory failure due to the smoking in the home. And she would pick me up and carry me, and I remember her saying that something about a frog and a prince, and if she kissed me, if I'd turn into a prince, and she gave me a little kiss, and it was sort of the start of the idea of the nurturer, the archetype in my own mind. And so I heard the stories that my mother was, the generic story that the mother was so selfless to give me up for a better life, and then to find out years down the road that it wasn't a better life, and you can't promise something like that, and it's a lie. And not only that, it keeps a person down, because I was the poorest kid in my class. I was the least privileged, since that's the big word of the day. And my best friend called me welfare kid, and their parents must have talked about my parents, because there was also talk that my parents were just being nice to my grandma because she had money and they wanted that money, and they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong about those things. And we weren't on welfare, but at the same token, it was only for the fact that both my adoptive parents had both worked very hard, and they weren't well educated or anything, but they all worked very hard, and during good times when anyone could work after the Depression and things like that, and were able to save up, own their own homes, and complete the American dream kind of thing here in Canada. But as far as things go, at the time I was told I was adopted, I begged to go back home for them to take me back. And that was a no. And I was inconsolable. And I tried to run away at 5. And anyways, over time, acceptance sort of sets in. And I just hoped and I prayed. And I just felt in my heart that my mother would probably try to better herself, because she probably felt bad that she lost me, and would make a place for me. And that wasn't true. So, my, my heart really goes out to you, my Patreon, because your son probably had that same ghost mother, and his was true. So I'm just really happy for your son, and I think all birth mothers need to know what's expected from them if they're going to relinquish their children from their children. And I think that's all I'll do today.